Hello, people. It's time for part 3 of looking at Goody's Mech. We've been lauding it, telling you how delightful it is. Now let's look at some problems that can happen. Bing! Alright, first big thing that I want to know. Alright, what did I say about these lovely add-ons here? Well, with no add-ons, it means we do have a little bit of extra money. Isn't that delightful? Yeah, we have a little bit of extra money. And right now, we can clearly see that we're going to have enough. Actually, let me just back up 10 seconds. We had just enough before I ended up spending it to get a command center. We're getting close to command center timing. Great. Now, what I want to note, though, is that if we actually come back to, like, the 8-minute mark, this is why I hate when people queue things up. Queuing is disastrous in terms of our timing. We're going to see a ton of stuff queued up. For instance, right now, 100 queued, 200 queued, and there's another 350 minerals queued. We actually have enough to build a command center right now. And look, and now that this is finished, well, you know, I guess that seems reasonable that we didn't end up building a command center at the 8-minute and 45-second mark. Because, you know, we have to keep building SCVs, you know, I couldn't afford the next round. But here, again, we're queuing up. We don't have these done for any amount of time at all, so it's just dead money sitting there. And what ends up happening is that Goody doesn't attack. It's not actually going to work out at the bottom. And then afterwards, as we're sitting here, we noticed at the 9-minute mark that we had enough money to build that expand, and at the 10-minute mark is when we actually realize that we need to end up expanding because we don't really have a solution. So as this push is coming out, again, I'd like to note, be smart about your siege tank positioning. Position here, and don't rush into things. Never sprint down the throat of the enemy. This gradual siege forwarding, even something as small as the fact that this tank was moving forward, is one less siege that we were able to do. Come on, drivers, stay with me. Stay with me, wee little drivers. So again, this push, I think, was great. It didn't do as much damage as we'd like, but you know what? It's still pretty close in terms of the unit lost count. We're getting to retreat with a good amount of stuff. We have 3 factories done. You have flexibility at times like these to say, I'm going to get 2 factories with tech labs, because that's going to allow me to begin building a lot of tanks. Or you can say something like, whoa, he's going only Zergling. I'm going to get a tech lab, or excuse me, I'm going to get a reactor on this one, and I'm going to give this factory to this reactor, and I'm just going to go absolutely apeshit with Hellions and continue to put pressure on him. You have that decision that you can make there. But now what we're actually going to see Goody do is he's going to keep building these Marines, which I don't know how much I like at this point. I don't feel like it allows that much. Also, I mean, the getting of this armory, this is intuitive, good, general stuff, because we see that the layer's done, so of course it's a reasonable time to begin getting that armory up, to begin getting those Thors. We could see some Mutalisks soon. But then there's just this kind of arbitrary add-on spamming that just gets to me. And suddenly, we see ourselves hopped into passive mode. These Hellions can easily be moving out in the map in a totally non-vulnerable way. It's very easy for this to kind of occur, and you want to try to maintain some activity on the map at the very least. Now, I just want to note that if you got the 3 factories to have 3 tech labs, you could suddenly get out a bunch of a bunch of tanks, and then you can just simply lift a factory, hand it over to the barracks, and begin producing Hellions out of all your factories. And start being aggressive yet again. In that unit tab, we don't really see that many roaches. I mean, there's 23 roaches, but I mean, 23 roaches, hell, I mean, here is almost 20 roaches right there in the middle, and this is a very deal-withable army, especially given the splash size of the siege tank. Wanting to set up to do that sort of alley-oop aggression a little while after 100, and the big thing is that you want to have a good amount of Hellions and Marines reinforcing the attacks if you want to be aggressive. I mean, look at this. A few shots from the tanks absolutely decimates that push. This blue flame maybe started a little earlier, but this is still a pretty reasonable time. I think Goody can maybe begin to start doing some pushing. Some of this direct pressure pushing. Maybe wait for these 2 Thors to come out, but this is what I don't want you to end up getting stuck into. Is this passivity of the follow-up. We did this fun aggro build that actually did successfully delay this expansion, and now we just sit. And Zerg gets to take all the bases. And I'm not even saying all the bases to reference the meme. He's actually literally taking all of them except for the ones on the left side of the map. He's taking every single damn base. So suddenly that early aggression from Terran did not really get to do very much at all. The upgrades. There's a huge lack of upgrades in the follow-up. Get your upgrades started very early with Mech. You must end up getting +2 or +3 quite quickly for attack, because then your siege tanks suddenly can obliterate roaches in much fewer hits. Right now they can barely kill a roach in 3 shots, but once you have them upgraded so they're doing 65 damage a shot, it's basically 2 shots and some splash damage is what's killing roaches now. So a push out like this. Now notice that Goody is in good shape. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pause right here and note that for all the criticism I've had for Goody's passivity, for Goody's lack of upgrades, he is doing some smart things like getting the starport up. He doesn't, he sees the hive. Oftentimes players will just be at 15 minutes and just be like, it feels kind of hivey around here, and they'll just, know that it's a good time to get it. By the way, 2 spires, what a fucking badass. There's a lot of good that our good friend Goody is doing. Again, he should get more upgrades. He maybe should have been a little bit more aggressive, given these timings that we see. That first attack that he did allows for a second follow-up attack. If he didn't do that first attack, he wouldn't be able to do like a 110 food push, but he can in this circumstance. But what I want to note is one of the most dangerous pits to fall into. Let's watch this part of the game, not remembering anything that happened beforehand. This army can actually kill this army. This is not that much stuff. Same amount of roaches as before, a lot of infestors, and some zerglings. Some zerglings, well, with 16 hellions, we're fine. You know that? We're in good shape. Ha. Now, what can happen here is something that I call a flimsy push. It's the push that comes out, sometimes wins, sometimes loses, maybe it wins like 60% of the time, and because it happened kind of flimsily, you don't really read it very well. It's hard to read flimsy situations. So this push army, I want to show the importance of being able to control this properly. Weirdly, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of zoom up to ×4 speed. This is the way a lot of people watch games. Okay, he's coming in with roaches and infestors, and ooh, it looks like he was able to take it out. Wasn't quite able maybe to push in. Whoa, I don't know what the hell that was. Looked like some Nickelodeon Gak maybe cameo. And we would say, yeah, it looks like Nerchio got the better end of that deal. But seriously, this is the big judgment misstep. So in the unit station, again, not that much. What's being produced? Mainly Zerglings. Slowing it down to normal. I'm going to just control grab all these tanks. Remember what I said? Slow it down. Don't end up moving forward with everything. Okay, Goody sees the army. Okay, it sieges up. Alright, already, all these tanks should have just obliterated that front line, having been sieged already, but they're not sieged. Now they're sieging up. Here comes all the infested Terrans. None of them have fired yet. Now, right now, we've already lost a tank, and it hasn't fired anything. Notice the tank portrait. His face is having a lot of trouble. Canada, help me! Cowrie! Poor siege tank. Notice that these siege tanks are going to get off about a volley. Now, watch how much damage the volley does. A decent amount. And it looks like there's a growth happening on my wonderful drivers. Good. So we get like a shot off. At this point, most of our Hellions are starting to take some serious hits. There's our second volley. The infestors are rapidly diminishing in number. They've already been halved, but of course they've already gotten the chance to throw down all of their infested swarm eggs. Do not let this happen to you. Siege up early. Feel more than comfortable not muling. Just don't mule. You will have trouble spending your money when you go mech. So why would you mule if you have trouble spending your money, right? You don't need more money. Save up for scans. Scan, position yourself properly. Have all your Hellions actively poking and prodding the edges. Don't do it with all of them, but have like maybe 4 of them poking. If you had all of them, then they get nabbed by fungal growth. But poke and prod around. And this is the flimsiness that can occur with this style of play, is that these mech armies are so damn strong that even at the worst angle possible, they can still put up some significant damage. And you can butcher almost everything beforehand, but as long as you siege up in time, you can win these kinds of battles. And what I want you to do is look at these big battles and make sure all your tanks were sieged in time. Be a little bit more comfortable to slow it down. Otherwise, these sorts of big, painful things will happen. Whoa! It literally did the same fry mess up twice in a row. Let's see if we can get it to do 3 times. Oh, yeah! Stretchy fire! Oh, God, this is cool. I almost don't want to fix my drivers. I mean, I know exactly how to, but, like, I'm lazy and I just haven't done it. Good. So now I think it's pretty clear to say that suddenly Goody's going to be on the downhill battle. And again, it's very easy to be in a spot like this and to start having the false hope. I mean, your mech army is so strong. And occasionally you'll do this sort of stuff. You'll kill off a whole bunch of workers. But be really careful. Because mech is so powerful when you get close to 200, it's easy to play little tricks on yourself. There's one more game that I wanted to watch. Which one was it? Ah, this one between Stefano and Goody. We're going to see a great push. There's 2 things that I want you to note in this push that Goody does. That mid-game push, the MVP push that we were talking about, the reactor barracks siege tank push, it's so strong that even with a very poorly executed opening that Goody does here, it still very nearly threatens winning the game. I better go through this quickly, man. My StarCraft 2 may crash at any time. Alright, so let's go ahead and speed it up. Step 1, to see all our amazing, wonderful barracks factory aggression, we're going to get a barracks with no add-ons and a factory with no add-ons, and we're just going to read the situation and see how we can apply pressure. Goody doesn't actually really apply very much at all. He sees that Stefano has his pool done, reads the situation, and there's the early command center. Yep, going ahead and getting himself some Hellions, getting his bunkers up. And what you can do in these situations, you can get good reads on your opponent. You can see if speed is done. You can see if things like Roach Warrens get thrown down. Like, oops, he's poking around. Oh, getting a sense of how many spine crawlers are up. And then, just read. Just look clearly and see what's up. Now, there's a couple things that happen. Goody actually gets himself somewhat of a late second gas, so he can't actually do too much perfectly. Yeah, he has the infamous Goody queue up. Excellent. Really good. I like this third gas timing. He's starting to slowly add on more and more and more stuff. And hell, he read a Roach Warren. So what does he do? He just gets another tech lab on this factory. Again, I don't want you to pre-plan having your reactors all distributed exactly around. You can do a little bit of this careful addition of add-on, but, you know, generally delaying of the reactors. Siege mode is now done. He's going to start getting his Hellion. And what did we say about add-ons? Well, if you get these add-ons early, you're going to have to delay that third command center by a little bit. And we're seeing that reflected in the money from Goody. I mean, he's quite low. He doesn't actually have that much queued on these buildings, save for these 2 Marines. That's like 100 queued. Other than that, nothing queued, and we have just enough to build the next tanks. His money is low, looking so low. So good. Now Stefano's going to do his usual jazz, expanding, getting himself the Carapace upgrade. And again, around 9 minutes, that's usually when we want to push out. It looks like Goody's going to delay just a bit, because what do you need to move out? Well, you need a lot of Marines, you need a lot of Hellions. So he waits about another minute. But again, this push timing is just so damn good that even with things like supply blocked, we've actually been supply blocked a significant number of times. I'm actually going to show these. Here's one supply block. Oh, barely getting on supply blocked. Looking good, feeling good. We got some supply block incoming. Oh, we should build an armory. No, we should actually be careful about our supply. Oh, and here comes a supply block. Well, maybe we should land some extra supply. Yep, stuff like this, where we have our siege tanks just hanging out, unable to do much. We're trying to build some Hellions. We're getting an extra factory. I guess I'm indifferent towards getting this extra factory. You could, you couldn't. I prefer to just get the 3rd command center down, because that's really what you should do when you're doing these kinds of pushes. And again, be really careful, because you don't know how many units are there. You kind of want to make sure that you are sieged up as early as possible. Just siege up. Don't be shy about sieging up. Do not be shy about that. So here's where I begin to weep tears of blood. He's advancing forward. The push is looking good. We've been at 94 supply for like 2 minutes almost. Alright, let's count the command centers. There's 200 minerals. There's another 150. There's another 150, so that's 500 minerals. And we have another 2. Okay, so that's almost 2 command centers. Just queued up. $700 just queued up waiting. That's not even counting gas. Now, Goody has a good read. He sees that there's a 3rd base. So, of course, he knows that this timing is going to be quite strong. And look at this. With a huge amount of roaches and a mere 7 siege tanks, the roaches get eaten alive like it's nothing. Are you seeing the importance of sieging up? In the Units Lost tab, oh yeah, look at that sexy, unbelievably arousing amount of resources lost. And what should you do now? What's the problem that I'm seeing? Well, I don't have Marines or Hellions. Marines or Hellions are what you need to attack. If you had a Roach Infestor army and you lost all your Infestors, or excuse me, and you lost all your Roaches, you just had 12 Infestors sitting around, you would pull back and you'd wait for more Roaches. In this circumstance, Goody does not have any type of other unit. What he should be doing is he should rally on this siege tank and he should start trying to pull back. Or you can even do things like leave 3 sieged up and pull 4 back. Do not get overeager with this kind of aggression. Because look what's gonna happen to you. Oh yeah. Be comfortable pulling back, because suddenly any advantage that Goody had is lost. His opponent caught right back up in that Units Lost tab, because you want your weaker units, your Hellions and your Marines, to absorb everything. And you want these stronger units, the siege tanks, to bolster it if you have a force. Upgrade, getting started late. Really, really painful to see that sort of thing happen. I mean, Stefano isn't in a horrendous position by any means, but I really think that he should be in kind of a worser position. We're going to briefly just watch a little bit more of this game, but this is part of the reason why I was talking about command centers being queued up. Most Zergs can start a hive right now. Such as Stefano. Look at that. He already even has the tech done. All he needs to do is hit that H button. Stefano is working hard on getting base number 3 up, and it looks like he is going to get ready to get that base up at the 15-minute mark. Way too late. Start those expansions and have them synced up with your attacks. And this is what I mean by flimsy play. I don't mean bad play. I mean play that can easily swing one way or the other. Mech armies are going to be so good that even though Goody has this really late 3rd, and even though Goody is doing this push with no 4th command center coming up, the 4th command center actually is essential at this point. If you're that delayed on your 3rd, you should really get your 4th up. But this army, watch how good this frickin' army is. Siege up, siege up. Oh, he sieges up late and I want to kill myself. But no, he manages to successfully finally get the siege up. These armies are so strong that it almost doesn't matter. And that's when it's really dangerous. That's when your learning suddenly ceases. Look at how good this is. Only at the arrival of a couple of extra units does Stefano manage to pull himself back. So what if Goody won right now? What if he won? he would go, aha, good, excellent. Moving on. We come back here, we see the starports being built to deal with that big, scary Broodlord army. We don't see a fourth getting established anywhere. We're kind of low on SCVs. Hell, we don't even have our third saturated. But if you win, you think, yeah, did it. But again, the big painful moment is coming up. Come on. Oh no! Siege tanks caught unsieged. Oh, infestors doing all sorts of damage. Whoops, our mech army is just so good that we can stay alive. But Stefano is the king of macro. Look at this. Look at how good this army is. Come on, Stefano. Pull it together, baby. Right, doesn't it just look horrible? Doesn't this just look like possibly the worst thing of all time? If at any point in time, like I'm going to pause now. This is literally a position that you would log into and be like, oh yeah, well, Goody's clearly going to win. Imagine if this army was stopped at any point. Where on earth do you go to as Goody? You are almost mined out at your natural expansion. You're running low on minerals in your main. You have a fourth base with pretty much no way to protect from air. This ends up being real dangerous. Real dangerous. Like about as dangerous a situation as you can ever be in as a Terran player. Hell, I mean, even if Stefano just sends a couple roaches here, or even sends some roaches to the front, there's like not that much that Goody can do about any sort of counter. If at any point in time counterattacks ended up rolling in, if at any point in time we ended up seeing something like a swing around attack here, there's nothing that Goody could have done about it. And this is what can be ultra mad crazy hella deceptive about these kinds of styles. About especially Mech. It's so good in the late game, so unbelievably ridiculously good when it gets big, that you can end up getting wins because your opponent hits you head on and then can't really get away around it. But if at any point it collapses and you don't have a clear follow-up with economy, easy losses for you. That is a problem for flimsy styles. Ha! Flimsy maybe is not the best word. It's actually just so good. It's just a hard judgment call to make. Now, my voice is actually dying on me, and I'm not sure why. So I'm just going to take one question. We're going to take one. Markio, question grabber. I'm just going to take a single question. I'll be at DreamHack coming up on the 24th, 25th, 26th. Watch at day9.tv, or hell, watch at Twitch TV/day9tv. Yeah. N1000 says, Dear Day9, we've seen Goody have great decision making, but occasionally he's limited by his control. Are there Terrans who play Mech but have the APM to provide a better example of how to control these armies? I actually think that Mech does not really require very much APM at all. Marine Marauder really does, especially with how quickly you need to be able to stutter step and spread against Banelings, but as a Mecher, the only thing you really need to do is make sure you're sieging up in time, that you're poking around the edges. And this is actually why I recommend that a lot of lower APM players, or even newer players, just try out Mech. Because it's much more about the decisions you make with the army than about the meticulous control that you end up establishing and setting up. So given the fact that I'm pooped and my voice is dead, I'm just wrapping this daily up. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you go out into the meching world and do your timing pushes. And all of you are amazing, and I heart you deeply. Yes. And not a streaming. What the hell? Well, I'm going to go get a bucket of chicken and watch that. Good night, guys.